It's Shelley Renee, right?
Yeah, or
Okay,
my name is just Shelley, um, from Shelley Renee Consulting.
Renee. Okay. All right, we're going to start in three, two. All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, Shelley Renee. Shelley, how's it going?
It's going excellent, Michael. Totally great.
That's good. If you don't mind me asking, where are you located right now?
So I'm in a little town called Kinderhook in upstate New York, not far from Albany.
Okay, wow. You been there all your life or
Oh
recently?
my goodness, quite the opposite.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in the deep, deep woods of northern Maine, mostly
Oh,
bear and moose.
yeah.
The part of Maine where people rarely go.
But it's around fall time. Would you say that's the part where it's like the most beautiful or
Yeah.
no?
Absolutely. Fall, summer, I mean, the lakes, the mountains, the one mountain, I should say, Catardin. But
Yeah.
it's the place to be for sure.
Nice. Awesome. So Shelly, tell us a little bit about your past, your present. How did you get to where you are today?
Interesting story. I'm the oldest of seven kids, so say no more about learning team dynamics. Right there, I lived it.
Yeah.
And organizational systems, man, my mom was the best at being organized, like nobody's business. You had to be if you had seven kids. But well, I started to go to school for computer programming back in the day, RPG and COBOL, numbers, right? Lots of numbers. Well, in between classes, I babysat for a dentist. And it just so happens that he had the best of the best consultants from back in the day. We're talking back in the mid to late 80s. And he was really tough on his team, real tough. And they'd leave. So he's shorthanded a lot of times. And so he'd call me and say, Shelley, where are you? Can you come in here? And he'd hand me these cassettes. And he's like, can you listen to these back and forth on your way to class? Because I need to close some treatment cases today.
Mhm.
So I'd be listening to all the verbal skills and getting ready. And little by little, I just got sucked into the practice and I never went back to programming.
So you kind of like left school
Done, done. Yep.
and
Wasn't
you
my
worked.
intention, but I really found, I don't know what it was. I got hooked on the people and the process, all the pieces fitting together were fascinating, totally
Mhm.
fascinating.
Wow. And so you worked there from that point on at the practice.
Yeah, so well, I continued out my years at school, but more and more I was being pulled into the office, whatever days I didn't have classes, and pretty soon I was there. That was it. I was just there.
Okay.
And actually never left the industry. That was since I was 17.
And so when did it start happening? I guess like the transitioning period where you are now.
Gosh. Well, fast forward a few years, I end up marrying a dentist, moving to New York. So, from the deep woods of Maine to life in New York, married to a dentist. So, opposite ends from an employee in the woods to working with my hubby as, his practice. I had automatically my own learning lab.
Mhm.
Here we go. How do we work this? Different story when you're in it and working it from the other end. Isn't different from an employee, completely different feeling. Um, so I was able to work with my hubby. We grew our practice, doubled, tripled. We instituted new processes, new systems. I mean, we really grew it, and it was our pride and joy, totally our pride and joy. And I was able to study something and then take it back to the office and put it into application and learn how does the team react to this, what happens.
Mhm.
And from there I just continued reaching out to the best coaches, not just this country but in the world. And spent a lot of time learning even from European coaches, especially interested in the idea of systemic team coaching. that really fascinated me for sure.
Okay. So rewind a little bit. When you were working with your husband in the practice, was it already when you got in there, oh, everything's running pretty smooth. Okay, let's just see what we can do. Or was it more like, oh, wait, how have you been running this?
Exactly. It was eyes opened, like, what is going on here? What
Yeah.
in the world? But have you ever heard that saying, you can't read your label from inside the jar?
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. People are sitting in their practice and they're doing what they've always done. I call it hand-me-down knowledge. This is the coach from the 80s or the office manager from the 90s, taught the one from 20s. No one has stopped to re-examine, what in the world are we doing? Why are we doing this? And they're just carrying these used up, dated systems on and on and on. And so there was a lot of that happening in my husband's practice that we needed to reevaluate what the keepers were and what systems no longer served for sure.
What about today? Like, what are you seeing? What are some used, updated systems that you still see today in some practices where you're like, oh my gosh, you guys need to stop doing that?
Oh, I have lists. Lists. I could read you a list here of about 15 or 20. Now, before everybody jumps up and down, these are things to stop doing, because what I typically see is people adding workarounds. So here's the thing. If you're sending statements, you have a problem. So a lot of people don't realize something is going on with your estimations that the people are getting, or something's happening with the check-in and check-out process. It's kind of like Laura Numeroff books. If you give a mouse a cookie, it's just this circular, it just piles up. So if a patient has walked through the building, they don't have an estimate for the next portion, no one's spoken to them, it's going to end up with statements. If you're in that cycle of statements, you are going to have AR. If you have AR, then you end up hiring more people to help you collect your AR. See what I'm saying? It's a vicious cycle when there was something broken with the first system. I want you to stop statements. I want you to stop having AR. Literally stop. It would be a rare thing. Rare. Other things I'd want you to stop. Stop charging for no-shows. That's adding more work to the team's plate. You're causing problems with team. And 4 people jump up and down. There's a system that is causing this that can be remedied. Stop trying to reactivate some patients. Stop pre-booking schedule wreckers. Stop sending pre-Ds. It's not necessary. There's a better way to have these conversations. So sometimes we are not sharp on our system and we let these things be the fallback.
Yeah. Those are like, would you say it's kind of like there's water seeping through the cracks and you're just kind of like trying to catch it, you know what I mean? And put it in another bucket or something like that and put it in another bucket kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's
So
all
then,
kinds of time leaks, money leaks. If we're a little nervous, a little unsure of ourselves to close a treatment presentation, it's all too easy for the team to say, oh, well, we'll just send a pre in. Honestly, all we're doing is adding more work to the team. Now the team is doing busy, unnecessary work. We need to refocus them back onto the schedule, onto the patient contact portion. Even something like scanning EOBs into everyone's folder, a big, big, big time waster. There are better ways to do this. I want to lighten the load of our team so that they can focus on practice building, not on busy work.
Mhm.
Fascinating. There's one office, Michael, that he asked me to come in, and this owner had a large practice, probably 10 operatories, right? And he
Mhm.
had quite a few members of the team. Only one or two were patient facing, and the rest were all working behind the scenes in the back of the practice on eligibility, on insurance kickback, on AR, on collections, you name it. There was a whole team working back there. I'm like, guys, if we put you up front and we're actually having conversations with the patient, getting it right the first time on the check-in and check-out, this all goes away. We don't need all these other people with all these other systems.
Mhm.
That's
That's the
my
main. Yeah.
mission.
So then how do we do that? Like let's let's actually try right now. Like let's just say somebody who they're listening and they're like, okay, well, we charge for no shows, existing patients, right? Not new patients. We want to pre-book because too many people, new patients are just, yeah, you know what I mean? I'll be there, and then they're not, or anything like that. They just want to pre-book. And then AR, which I see like as something, I mean, can you just stop it today and then tomorrow? Then what? You know, like how does this work?
Okay, so there are several steps
Mhm.
to get there. Okay. Um, Here's the thing, Michael, the mindset has been that you always have statements. This book I've been reading by Lady Klotz on Subtract, he's showing how we just accept things as they are instead of questioning why is this happening. They give the example of the Strider bike.
Mm.
How cool is that? These little ones, someone designed bike with no pedals. So kids are riding faster, younger. They're gaining the ability to ride a bike 2-3 years earlier than back in the old days when you had pedals and then you had to go through the training wheel stage.
Yeah.
So here we are today. How can we apply that in the dental practice? Say AR, for instance. Okay, listen, there are so many tools we have right now. So on the check-in, if we handle this correctly, we will know what form of payment they're using today before they get treatment. We can hold their credit card on file, not in the software, definitely not in the software. And then if our estimate is off slightly, it's okay. We have their card on file. There, I'm only telling you a fraction, Michael. There's a lot of steps
Mhm.
that I can go into, but it has to do with the exit, with what's presented on the treatment, with the agreed upon amount, so that when the patient arrives, it's all handled before they go back. After insurance pays, you hit the credit card on file. You're done. You're done. So it's like a game with the teams I work with, how many cards on file versus the statements. The statements go away. So if the statements go away, so does the AR.
Mhm. Do you ever get like patients who are don't want to do that? Like they're like, no, I don't want to give you the credit card.
Yes, and that's okay. So we do short menu, either or. We can take an estimate today, or better yet, we can hold the card on file for the actual amount after insurance paid. Two choices. Pay now an estimate, not so much fun. Or better yet, hold the card. Either way, the owner wins.
Mhm. Yeah. The second one where the credit card's on file, that's how the credit card companies work. You know what I mean? Like it's like delayed gratification where you're like, hey, you don't have to pay something right now.
You don't have to pay now. We're not guessing the estimate. It's the actual, what you actually owe. First 6 months, when you go through the first cycle of patients, as they're getting used to it, they might be, I'm not sure. Let's see. Quite a few are okay with it. So maybe 50%, 60%, sure. A few percent after the next trip or two, they're fine. And you realize that your car's on auto pay, your mortgage is on auto pay. I go to order something online these days, and that somehow they already have my credit card on file at some of these companies. You notice that,
Yeah.
and it's become more of the norm. But that's just one example of subtracting, lightening the load. Some coaches are teaching, 40 some systems.
Yeah.
I'm saying if you need that many systems, that we're doing something wrong. You're not going to need collection systems. You're not going to need frequencies of sending statements. You can remove yourself from this process, just like the little Strider bikes. You don't have to go through a training wheel stage, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they say like to obtain knowledge, you want to add things every day, but to obtain wisdom, you want to subtract things every day. And
That's it.
so, talk to me more about that. I walk into a practice, you're the practice owner. How do you know what to start subtracting? Just stuff that gives you headaches, or?
Mm-mm. Um, this is where it's helpful to have outside eyes, because when you're in it, it's hard to see. Right now I'm working with a practice, and I walk in and I'm just observing, and phones are ringing. They can't get to all the calls. It's so busy. There's a few openings that they're can't get to, and they're rushing to print these routing slips, and they're rushing to put routing slips in folders, and they're rushing to put the routing slips over here because the clinical team's waiting for the routing slip for the next patient. So I'm watching this, and I'm saying, is this what they want, or wouldn't they rather have this person answering the phone first and filling the schedule first? And is there a better way than being worried about printing the routing slips, putting the routing slips in a certain filing order for the team? Is there a better way? And we always find it together as a team. We find a way to eliminate that, and we replace it with something that's already existing in their software.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And now, okay, so now we've let go of something, we can do something else better, which could be pinboarding, where the treatment's already there. If we stick with the routing slip, what happens? This paper comes back, and the team member scribbled what was done today. Now, instead of our business team discussing treatment and finances and figuring the estimates, now our front desk team is busy typing and entering information into the computer. By that time, you have an impatient patient. Impatient, they're running outside, they're done. So we need to look at the busy that's happening, and how can we smooth that out? How can we streamline that?
That's interesting. How do you work with that and work with maybe a team member who's like, no, Shelley, I have to get this whiteout that I'm doing has to be done on this paper right now, or I have to organize this right now. The doctor likes like you know what I mean? The busy work, not the productive work, but they feel like I need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with the team member like that?
So it starts with our mindset. So I say, talk to me. Talk to me. Why are you hanging on to doing these pre's? What is it about the pre? What are you afraid is going to happen if you don't send out a pre? Well, then they'll start on this whole thing. Well, the patient won't know how much, or it might be rejected, or, and then we deal with those fears. So is it really so the patient doesn't understand the full fee? Is it so that whether or not the insurance talks about what they're going to pay, this patient still needs this? So if we go back to what we are here for, and if I can help the team member realize our purpose and who we serve, and it's not dependent on a piece of paper getting sent. We even talk about, let's follow this piece of paper. You're going to make all these attachments. You're going to send it. The insurance company's going to say they didn't get it. And you're going to redo that work. And you're going to send it. And then you're going to get a denial. And now you're going to come back and you're going to write some appeals. You're going to send it all again. Meanwhile, a couple months have gone by. Meanwhile, this patient's not getting healthier. So if we reason with the team, we can help them take baby steps. So maybe baby steps is, okay, you will only send a pre, maybe level 1, only send a pre if the patient is committed to care and is booking. And then from there, the team builds their confidence, and then we can start to slowly back out of pre's.
So it's not like, hey, let's get rid of AR. Shelley on
No,
the podcast told us to get rid of it. Let's do
no,
it. We're doing it today. And then the team's
no.
like, what is happening?
Oh, no. That's terrifying for them.
Yeah.
So no, what it is, the fact that we have AR is there's a broken system that needs attention. Okay. I haven't been in an office that doesn't have a sign somewhere that we accept payment at time of service. Oh yeah? Tell me, how many statements are you sending? You have a break here. So we can be gracious and loving, and we can offer all kinds of solutions. Really, they can pay an estimate today if they want. They can pay nothing and we'll hold the card on file if they want. Or they can use Care Credit if they want to make payments. Everything's a yes. What's not a yes is walking in and out with 0 put down. So somehow there's a break in that connection. But if they leave an estimate or a card on file or a third-party payment, tell me, why do you have statements?
Do you think it's started from like almost kind of being afraid to ask for payment? Like, hey.
Yeah. Sometimes it's I call it it's a misplaced trying to think the word I use, but it's a sympathetic financial consultant, financial coordinator. Their care is misplaced. They're being afraid to have a conversation instead of being proud of the service we do and let's get this patient healthy. So their pride should be on, let's get you well. Let's take care of this. This is how we do it. And if I can help their mindset recognize this will help you, we're going to find a way. We're going to have this much come back from your insurance and we can put this much on a payment plan with Care Credit. How does that sound? What about this day? Let's do it now. Well, it's less. Let's take care of it now. So you're right. It is the mindset of the team that we can work on.
Gotcha. Okay, because I know like that's one of the, I guess, office managers who always close treatment would immediately kind of like present it and then file it down and then say, but don't worry, we already applied the discount. So here's the discount, what you're going to pay in this and this and blah, blah, blah. And in my mind, they would say no, right? They're like, well, let me think about it. Okay, think about it. Go talk it over with your husband and then come back and give me a call. And then we'd have like unscheduled treatment forever, right? And
Yeah.
so in my mind, I'm like, where did this person went wrong? I feel they went wrong so many ways, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I don't like to use discount with them. And if you're going to do something, you'll save them, but don't discount. We don't do discount work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's so much that if you have a different mindset, what can we eliminate here on this poor team? When I come in, teams are burdened. I mean, you almost see stress across their brow. I just took a call before this podcast. Stress. They've been off for a week because of the holiday weekend here. And they're back and they have stacks of mail and EOBs and checks and the phones are ringing and the stress. So we want them to be patient facing and connected with our patients. We don't want to keep hiring more and more outsourcing and more bodies on the payroll, killing our overhead because we are holding tight to the old way we did things, that we're clinging to this. I want you to delight in less. Less. It's relieving. They can be implementing deeper on what matters. The practice building, not busy, not printing, shredding, scanning. There's way too much printing, shredding, scanning happening in the dental office hours instead of answering the phone and filling the schedule.
Yeah.
But it is a reset. It is, I call it getting your dental house in order. Almost like Marie Kondo, going through only keeping the precious gems, and I'm referring to systems. So to me, getting your dental house in order is getting rid of these broken systems, getting rid of the patches that you've added because it wasn't working. And the result is lighter load, definitely the relief. I mean, studies show like the less tasks you have on your plate, the more your mood elevates.
Mm-hmm.
And we need that in our offices. We need to quit adding on to the plate. Let's start replacing, subtracting.
Yeah. It allows you to hyper focus on things too, right? Like you can hyper focus on stuff, things that matter. Creativity starts coming out. You know what I mean? You start thinking of more things for that one specific thing instead of having to add on. I understand.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because the creativity, this is what I would love to see, is more of that generative type dialogue with teams. So the old way was always do, do, tell the team how we do things, what if an owner could have these conversations where you're generating ideas, generating thoughts? How could we do this better? Instead of bringing complaints, let's talk about what could be. And together, the team will come up with an idea much better than one person ever could have suggested.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding more and more when we go work with teams, I'm using my handouts less and less. The team does have the knowledge. And when they're clear on their purpose, what is the purpose of this task, this system? And they start putting their own mind into it, the result is amazing. And I have less resistance. They're not fighting against me of fear, fear or hesitation, because they're like, whoa, this could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, you're
know,
taking them into account. If we rewind a little bit, how do we stop charging for no shows?
so here's the thing. What I've been noticing is offices are waiting too long to do their confirmation. That's one step. So they wait to the day before. Okay. They have done that to themselves. They boxed them in a hole where they've limited the time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to back up a few days. The other thing I notice that's an error is everyone has all this technology and they've got it turned on full blast. So the patients are getting pinged, a month out, a couple weeks out, a week, save the date. They're getting this, and this. So the patient's getting overload. They don't know which one is one that they click on versus a reminder.
Mm-hmm.
So the patients are getting bombarded. What is the result of that? Now they have to pick up the phone and call the patient. Now the patient's ticked. I know already. I know I've been getting all the emails, texts. So I look at that whole system with the team. We back up. Okay, what are your settings? Do any of these settings allow the patient to actually respond? And I shut off everything the patient can't respond to, only turn on what the patient can respond. So you know way back. I turn down the volume on that so we're not irritating. And then I have a 3, 2, 1. So if they haven't responded to the automation, at what point does the team member get in? And at what point does the team member say, we need a response or we may release? I mean, what is the whole point of a confirmation? What is the purpose? An answer, not leaving messages all over the place. That's not a confirmation. You want an answer. Okay? So all these myriads of automations haven't worked. So now the team's calling, like the team has time to do a bunch of calls, right? These days. And again, the patient's not answering because, you know, they've figured I know already. They don't realize that the team doesn't know. So part of it's a training with the team. You will get a little notice from us if you could be so kind as to click on it. We won't have to call you and all of this will stop, all this automation. So part of it is team training, patient training. Part of it is the team elevating if the patient hasn't done a response. What is the elevation? And at what point do you release? I call it a triple R, release and rebook reds. So I have a triple R process that we take baby steps with the team into, where we teach them the process of how and when to kindly and graciously implement that so that you can quickly look across your schedule, all those ops, and you see exactly where the openings are. That was the whole purpose of the confirmation. Now you can take action. Now you have an extra day to take action on those spaces.
Okay, nice. So the triple R, so it's not like, hey, let's confirm 3 weeks, or when would you say would be the max where you just start? How much time?
So I'm into minimal but more impact. So I love the save the dates. Patient gets, 6 months. I love that. That's great. But from then on, I want actionable response reminders. So the next one, a week out, I'm fine with 1 week. And the automation should allow them to click. So they have a week's notice. So they had to save the date that dropped in their calendar. Then they have a week out. And then 3 days out is the next, with a little bit of an escalation in the message with a responsibility. Okay, does that make sense? So there's 7, 3. At day 2, okay, they've had to save the date. They've had a week out. They've had 3 days out. We're going to step this up and leave a message. And verbally just mention to them, please, if they could be so kind as to respond to their email or text. And we'd like to hear from you, and give them a time frame. If you could call us back by or respond to your email and text. Otherwise, we may release. So I'm just giving you wiggle room. I'm not saying you dump the patient out. You're going to have to make a judgment call, look at their history with you, look at your level of people requesting to get in the door. I have a whole process I can teach the teams on without getting into the weeds. I have so much I can teach on this, what to do if the patient walks in after you've released them. Another thing, Michael, is I'm not allowing any pre-booking for schedule records. I mean, team members are jumping up and down all the time. Look at who's on the schedule. They're not going to show. If I ask them to give me a list, they'll give me a list of 12 names like that of people that do that. And I said, then why am I seeing their name in the schedule? Who did that? You did that. You did that to yourselves. I don't think so. I don't think so. You are pre-booking your schedule records. So I teach different. I teach a hybrid scheduling, completely hybrid, We're not victims here. We built that schedule, so build it right. Okay. Decide who deserves that precious seat in your schedule. I call it my select patients or standby, kind of like the airlines. The select, they get to pre-book and they get to pick their seat
Mm-hmm.
versus my standby. And standbys, don't get me wrong, I love them. I have all kinds of places I can put my standby patients. But it's fun, Michael. It's really fun to get in there and dissect this system and say, what is the point of this?
Mm-hmm.
And I need to get there sooner and faster to the result. And I'm not seeing results I like when I'm in offices. I want to, like, if you're gonna do work all day long, let's make it matter. Let's make the result awesome.
Mm-hmm. What would you do if, like, a schedule wrecker, obviously 3, 4 times, it's like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? They've messed up the schedule. They wrecked the schedule. They've no showed. They've done all these things. They call the fourth time. They're like, I'm in so much pain. I need to come in tomorrow. Because obviously the past times they didn't come, right? Or they're just headstrong on coming in. Do we pre-book them then, or what do we tell them? What do we say?
Um, so I have a couple steps before that so that we stay best of friends and we're totally gracious.
Mm-hmm.
So can I tell you what I do with these people before we get to the emergency and they're
Mm-hmm.
desperate? So, um, the name of the game to me is fun and play. Let's play. Let's be close. Let's be connected. Whether they're schedule wreckers or not, I still love them all and I still want them all in my practice. I'm just not going to be angry at them and I'm not going to let them ruin my day. So with the people that are more impulsive, I'm never going to teach them how to be a schedule keeper. That's just not in their nature. But I share with them, I say, you know something? I don't know how you can do it with your schedule. It's really tough. How about this? You and I are going to have a special arrangement. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell the other patients, okay? You and I have a special deal. When you're in town, can you give me a call and let me know a time that will work? And I'll check my schedule. And if I have a time, can I reach out to you? So they actually feel respected. They actually feel like I'm moving heaven and earth for them. And they're so responsive when I reach out, I'm like, hey, we haven't seen each other in a long time. I think it's time for you to come in and have a date with us. Come on in. So I'm able to use them. They're impulsive, right? They've dropped you a million times. That means they're going to drop whatever else they had on their agenda today when it matters to them. So when it matters to them, they will call and I will do it within the parameters that works for the office. And likewise, I don't lose these patients in the system. I have it all filed away nicely so that when I'm ready, I can just just reach out and say, hey, guess what? So this came from years working in an office where I don't have time to do hunting. I need everybody at my ready. So, okay, something drops, boom, I've got my standby people ready. I
Mm-hmm.
have people in the building. I needed speed and I needed quick. And I needed only my schedule keepers to be pre-booked.
Nice.
So
Okay, I
that's
like
like
that.
level one. That's level one.
Mm-hmm. And then
I
it
can
kind of
go to
continues.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Then
Gotcha.
then it goes even more creative. You can who you put in the morning versus the afternoon to allow you to have same day dentistry. You can get so creative, and that's what you were saying, the fun. Get rid of all this printing, scanning, shredding, doing pre's, and let's work on the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. The stuff that like moves the needle,
Yeah.
basically. All right. Shelley, what would you say is your area of expertise then?
Well, definitely eliminating nonsense. I I don't have time for all these extra steps that don't move the needle. So that's one thing. But one of something near and dear to my heart is systemic team coaching.
Mhm.
That is near and dear, where the old way that we were taught to build a team is forming, storming, norming, and high performing. That doesn't work today. That day has passed. We don't have time. Team members don't last anymore. Teams are in a constant, perpetual state of forming and storming. So we need to bypass that. And that's what systemic coaching does. Systemic coaching gets you up and running faster. And how that happens is instead of the doctor telling, there's no more telling here. What we're doing is we are collaborating. We're getting clear on who we serve. So gone is vision and mission. That is individualistic. We're working as a community here. Who do we serve? How do we serve them? What does that look like? Now the team has a share. They have meaning. And that's what keeps a team member. If it means something, if they get the connection between what they're here to do and their voice matters, we're more apt to get to that high functioning team quicker. And they're ready to stay. So systemic coaching, that's big for me. I studied the 5 disciplines where we work on their clarity, their purpose, roles, goals, objectives. We work on their commission. Who do you serve? Define who you serve. We co-create the dynamics on that team. We work on connecting to outside the office, to the community, which is right up your alley, Michael.
Mhm.
And we work on the co-learning together. What have we learned from this? What are we going to do next time? So that's a little bit about systemic coaching. And really, what's different about me is I've done all the old-fashioned consulting with a million systems. I've gotten into simplifying dental office and looking in 4 areas. And I've thought long and hard. Michael, I challenge you if you can find more areas. But honestly, once the team has its purpose, we look at what they're getting for patients. What's coming in the door? Is it the right patient? Most of the time, it's not necessarily what that doctor's looking for a patient. Once you figure out the purpose of the doctor, who they want to serve, usually there's a disconnect. So I look at the get, what they keep for patients. So I'm going to analyze how they are doing at retention, how they care, which will mean the services, their standards, what they offer, unscheduled treatment, the treatment presentation, and then I'm going to look at collect. Purpose, care, collect, and keep. And those systems get your dental house in order.
Okay. So that's the area of expertise. You kind of systematic approaches, and you want to hyper escalate the. I like these words. They're great.
I see you processing. Wait a second. I didn't get a single gotcha.
Gotcha. I know. So then, Shelley, what can a dentist do today if you were to just mention something? Although we've already mentioned a lot of stuff that they can be doing, but one thing right now dentists can do today to improve their marketing or their business in total that will move the needle. If they were to apply something right now that you said, and next week they're like, oh my gosh, it's working. What would that be?
I would say evaluate their mindset. Do some thinking on what they've accepted as being normal and reevaluate it, just like the little Strider bikes. Reevaluate those systems you think statements are normal. You think what the front desk team is doing right now is normal. I'm asking you, is it really? Do you really need to be doing all of this? Pre's and eligibility and scanning and root slips. Do you really? Can you think of a better way? That will change the course of your practice.
Okay. I like that. Asking about their mindset. Okay. So now these next questions are just to get into the head of someone who isn't totally involved on the clinical side of dentistry, right? Meaning like the day to day, you're in their mouth. What would you like to see more from a dentist?
I'd like to see them engaging the team. If they could engage their team, if the owner could recognize that they could go further faster with the team's say, generate the dialogue, the co-creation together, it will take a load off the owner. It will raise morale tremendously. You're going to get engagement and the team's going to want to stay.
To engage the team. That's what we want to mainly be doing. Yeah, I feel like it's easy to kind of, I guess, oh, of course, when you're listening to it, but think about it. I don't know how often that happens.
Oh, yeah. If you think of conversations, it's usually, okay, we're not hitting the mark here. This has got to change. Double down. So they double down on the same broken system. We need to quit doubling down on what's broken. The reason you're not getting a result doesn't mean you're not doubling down. Maybe it means your system is broken and you need to replace it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Right now, what do you hate or dislike about dentistry?
I dislike the idea that you're a victim. This has to stop. You're not a victim of the insurance. You're not a victim of your team. You're not a hostage. You can hold the reins and direct yourself to where you want to be. You're here. Decisions, choices, systems got you to this place. And hey, it's a good thing you realize you don't want to be in this place. Then let's walk you out of this. Let me take your hand and let's get you to what you want. What did you think your practice life was going to be like? What do you want it to be? Because we can create it. Just because you're where you are now doesn't mean we can't get you to the practice you're looking for. So that's what I dislike. We're not a victim. We don't have to stay in the situation. We can create it. It's very possible. I've seen it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I see a lot of, in the forums, posts, things like that, where they feel like, oh, my employee, my team member, insurance, I hate it. But
Yes.
they govern everything. Delta, and it's kind of,
Yes.
I guess, yeah. I guess I would have to say, yeah, that is like victim mentality, right?
It's a little victim mentality. And the other thing is, it's not all or nothing. It's not you drop statements right away. You don't drop Delta right away. You take steps towards it. I like to tell owners, I like to think of insurance like your stock market portfolio, your mix of stocks and bonds. You want a healthy mix. So let's look at your mix. That's something that's very easily I can pull with their data. What is their mix? How heavy are you into the deltas versus this? But there's steps you can take, like your in-house plans. There's all kinds of ways. There's easily 20 ways that you can change the fabric of your practice, what you're getting, and my 5 big things, what's coming in, what you're keeping for patients, how you care for them, and how you collect. Those are the buckets. You can get, keep, care, and collect right. you'll be all set.
You'll be set. Yeah. Awesome.
It's usually a disconnect between that needs a little tweaking.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And right now, what do you absolutely love about dentistry?
Oh my goodness. Dentistry, it's probably the only industry that you can affect change that we'll probably have to cut this. I'm trying to think. I just want to restate this.
Hmm.
Okay, you ask me your question again.
All right. Feeling ready?
Yep.
Okay. In three, two, what do you love, absolutely love about dentistry?
Oh my goodness. I love seeing how a simple system can transform a practice and improve lives. To see the stress on an owner ease up and watch as they get their joy and love back, all while team members are developing, patients are thriving, and the practice is growing. What industry can do that? What industry can create beauty and health in a patient, develop the team, owner to feel satisfaction? Not many industries can affect lives on that many levels. That's why I love dentistry.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that a lot. You're right. You're right. Awesome, Shelley. Thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure. But before we say goodbye, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Absolutely. I got a new website getting popped up pretty soon. So it's Shelley, and there's a lot of E's, ShelleyRenee.com. So SHELLEY, Renee, RENEE.com.
Awesome. And that's going to be in the show notes below, along with Shelley's social media, anything like that. You guys can reach out to her, ask her more questions, pick her brain. And Shelley, thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure, and we'll hear from you soon.
You're so welcome. Thanks.